I'm Devin Varner from Varner Equipment in Delta, Colorado. I was going to show you a question that we get asked quite often about the little tractors that we sell, whether they be our little ones from 24 horsepower, 19 horsepower, all the way up to 100, 150 horsepower tractors. How do the loaders come on and off of the tractor, and how does the bucket come on and off of the tractor? What we've got here, this is a 2510 Branson. This has a BL100S loader on it, which the only difference between a BL100 and a BL100S is this one has the skid steer quick attach on the bucket, where the other one is just a pin-on bucket. We're going to try to show you today how to take the bucket on and off the tractor to change it if you want to put pallet forks, bale spear, a different bucket, whatever you want to put on the front end. We're going to show you how to take the loader completely off of the tractor, so you can take it off and get it completely off the front end. And we're also going to show you how to take the backhoe off of the back of the tractor and put it back on again. Why would I want to take it off? What is the advantage of taking the loader off of the tractor? The purpose for that is going to be if you're in a tight, confined space and you're running a rototiller, for example, and you don't need this loader hanging off the front end of the tractor 2 or 3 feet, you can take this off, the whole front end of the tractor, the whole thing's going to come off, and then you just have the tractor. You can get closer to stuff, you can get in a tighter area. It's also, if you're out on a corrugated field for a bigger tractor anyway, you're doing hay work and you have no intention of using the loader for several hours or days or weeks while you're haying, you can take this off and it just gets the extra weight off of the front end of the tractor, so when you're out bouncing around through a field, you don't have another 1,000, 1,500 pounds sitting up there on the front end of the tractor bouncing around on it. So we're going to show you here real quick how to do this. This tractor here has a skid steer quick attach, which is right here behind the bucket. The quick attach has 2 little levers that you pull up, which are just right here on the back. Pull one up, pull the other one up. They got to come straight up vertical. Once them are up, the bucket is unhooked. I'm going to start the tractor then, and all you're going to do that is you're just going to roll out of it, and then you're just going to roll back into it, is how you would take it off and you would unhook it. These are your quick attach handles. Those are your pins that go down through the bucket. Once them are pulled up, it does come right off the back. Well, to go back into it now, all we're going to do is tip it down and put these lips underneath the little lip of the bucket, and then you just tip the bucket up into it, it latches on, and you push these handles back down again. As far as switching the bucket, it's as easy as that. This is a universal skid steer quick attach system, which has been universal in the skid steer industry since 1995. Any attachments that will fit on a universal skid steer will fit on this quick attach. So once again, if you have a bale spear, pallet forks, different bucket, hydraulic post hole digger, grapple bucket, anything that has that quick attach will fit on the front of this loader. Not saying that this little tractor will run that, but anything with that quick attach will hook up to this. We're going to show you how to take the loaders off of the actual tractors. Once you've seen this done and how simple it is to actually remove this loader from the whole front end of the tractor, it's one that you'd be, man, I could take that off and I'd have a lot more uses for the tractor if this loader was not sitting up there. This is on a little 2510H Branson. This procedure is pretty well standard for a lot of manufacturers out there and a lot of our loaders. So it doesn't matter how big the tractor is, how small the tractor is, what brand it is. This is going to be very, very similar for whatever you're going to do on that. So the very first thing you're going to have to do on most of the loaders, they have a little jack leg right here on the side. It's this little leg that comes up the side. This is on with a small pin. When you pull the pin, this is going to come down in some way, shape, or form. You pull it down, and you literally just put the pin in it. So that is down like that on both sides. When those are down, those jack stands are going to become the actual jack stand that holds the loader up whenever the tractor is out from under it. So as soon as you back the tractor away, those are what's going to hold the weight of the loader up. Once you have them out, there's 2 pins right here on the front or on the back side of the loader mounts. There's one on each side. It's this pin right here. They will be loose most of the time. There's sometimes they'll have a little tension on them where you got to play with it, but most of the time these are loose. where that pin is going to come right out of there. Once them are out, the loader is ready to come off of the tractor. There's nothing else that really has to happen other than the fact that there is a welded in pin here that you can kind of see. This black mount has a saddle that welded pin sits in, and you've got to get that welded pin to come up and out of that saddle. The easiest way to do that is to tip your bucket down just a little, set the weight on the jack legs, and then use the tip of your bucket to actually get that back end to kick itself up. I'll show you here real quick how that's done, and you can see how one of these will come off. So with that off, you can now see that that's set up off of the front end of there. Now what you would do is you just need to take your joystick, move it around somewhat like this, and that's going to take all the pressure off of your loader cylinders and your bucket cylinders. This is now sitting on those jack stands. At that point, you have 4 color-coded hoses right here. They're all on quick couplers. Once them are off, the loader is now off of the tractor. If you want to take it off, all you've got to do is back up out of it now. The whole front end, you don't have all the weight hanging off the front. You can get closer to stuff with the tractor. If you're going to be doing service work on the tractor, you need to open the hood and you need to get in there and you need to work on something. With this loader off, you have great visibility and access to both sides of the engine, the front end, the fuel pumps. All of that is very accessible once the loader is already off of it. As far as putting it back on again, you will basically do everything that we just did in a reverse order. You're going to drive back into here. You're going to get that to set back down in those saddles after you hook up the hoses. And then you're going to, once you get it back in, put your pins in, lift it up and take them off of there. One deal I will say with this that it makes your life a lot easier, the flatter your ground is that you take the loader off on, the easier it is for you. If you get this on a little bit of uneven ground, you can have trouble trying to get the pins out, and you can also have trouble trying to get the pins in or getting it just to set down in those little saddles. So a trick to that flat ground makes life a lot easier. So now that you've seen it off, we're going to go ahead and put this loader right back on. I'll start it, we'll drive it in here, and we'll put it right back on there again. So once you've driven into the loader, you can usually drive up until your frames bump these little red mounts on it. Once you get them on, these are all color coded. If they're not color coded, it's kind of a wise idea to color code them before you take them off. Some colored zip ties, electrical tape that's colored, anything will make life a little bit easier for you when you go to put these back in, so that you don't have to play the guessing game on why your loader don't work after you've hooked it back up again. Once you get those all in, start your tractor back up. Your idea now is to get those pins to set back in those saddles. Once they're back in there, the saddles will hold the loader on, and so you'll be able to lift it right up and then be able to put your other pins right back in it. They're back on. Once you get to this point, you've got your 2 pins on the side that just slide back in. You've got a jack stand up in the front on both sides. And then you got another pin over here. Once those are back in, you are all back in business. It is 100% back on the tractor, ready to go. One question that I do get on our little tractors with our little Branson tractors is this little piece right here up above the cylinder and under the main loader arm. These are held on with a wing nut underneath the frame. There's one on each side. I get a lot of guys that ask us, what is this for? This little cutout is made to sit right down here on the rod end of the rod, and this side is meant to set over the rod under the cylinder cap, the head here. And it's so if you raise the loader up in the air and you want to be working on it or under it or around it, you can lift it up, take these off. There'll be a stop that goes right in here on the rod to keep the rod from collapsing, to hold it up so it don't come down on you. We're going to show you here on taking a backhoe off of the back of the little 2400 Branson. This particular one has a separate seat that the operator gets on and uses, where a lot of the new ones are using a swivel seat to get the backhoe in tighter to the tractor, give it a little bit more ground clearance, loading it and unloading it. To take this off, you're going to have a little bit of a procedure. It's not much, but there's a few things you'll have to do. The backhoe does have lock pins right here that holds the boom up and down. Your stabilizers on the side, you're going to be using your stabilizers to kind of hold it from the side, lift it off the tractor. You're going to be using your hoe to give it forward and aft movement. And then the only thing that you're really going to have is right underneath the seat, you've got two pins right here. There's two little brass pins. We're going to start the tractor. We're going to pull those pins out. Once they're out, we're going to take the stabilizers and just lift the backhoe out of, there's some little cradles that it has down there. Once they're out, the backhoe is off of the tractor. You can pull it ahead a few feet, and then there's a couple hoses down there that you need disconnected and hooked back together, and the backhoe will be completely off. Putting it back on will be just a reverse procedure of that. So the first thing you're going to have to do is we're going to start it up here real quick. Once it's started, we'll start pulling stuff out and getting it on there. Once you've removed those two pins from the pinholes right there, the backhoe's not held on the tractor by nothing more than those two little cradle pins down there. Once they're off, you can just lift up the backhoe. Once you lift it up off of there, it's completely off of the tractor, and now you would be able to pull ahead. That would be the backhoe completely off of the tractor. There's two hoses here that are your fluid hoses that actually run the backhoe. They're gonna be needing to be unhooked and hooked back up to them. But when you get to this point, everything is off except for your two hoses. One thing that you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to get this set down to the ground, because you're gonna have pressure on your two hoses. So to do that, all you would end up doing is we'll start the tractor. We're going to lift the stabilizers, we're going to lift the hoe, and we're just going to let it sit right down to the ground, take all the pressure off it before we unhook these hoses. Once that's down to the ground, you do need to move your levers again, just to make sure you don't have, like right there we had weight on the backhoe. You want to move that so there's no weight left on it. And then you just got two quick couplers to pull off, and we hook them together on the backhoe just so that they stay clean. You have to hook them back together on this tractor. I get quite a few questions where guys will call me back, and I just unhooked the backhoe and we put the 3-point on the tractor, and now my 3-point don't work. The reason being, the backhoe gets oil before the 3-point on the tractor does. This is still your supply line. It runs it through the backhoe valve and then back into the 3-point valve. if you have that unhooked, you're not putting oil to your tractor for the 3-point. Once that's off, you see we have the 3-point in the bucket of the tractor. You can put the 3-point back on. Then with that, you're ready to go and use it for anything else that you want to use. To come back in to hook up to this, it's just going to be a reverse procedure of that, where we're going to back in, we're going to hook up the hydraulics, we're going to raise the backhoe up off the ground, we're going to back underneath it, we're going to set these pins down in those little saddles, and then put our pins back in here to the top once we get started to do that. Once he shuts that off, we can hook up the lines for the tractor, and it's pretty easy on there. You just have one male and one female on each side. All right, we'll go ahead and start it again. Now that our lines are hooked back up, now the backhoe is live, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to raise it up. Once you have those pins in the holes, then you just need to line these up, which is going to be as simple as just moving this stuff a little bit until your pins, they should slide in there real easily, like that one there's going in. Once they get lined up, there's a little hole there as a little keeper. Take this pin and do the same thing. Once again, you might have to move something one way or the other, then they should slide right in. Once those pins are back in, the backhoe is back on, and it'll be 100% mounted onto the tractor. For a one-person operation, it's fairly easy to do, but you might have to use the controls on the backhoe to either turn the backhoe a little bit, to raise it up, to move it in, to move it out, to move the bottom in, to move the top in. Whatever you got to do to get those little saddles to sit in there. You can see we had somebody else on the tractor that just backed it up for it. It is easier with 2 people, but you can do it with 1. Like I said, you just drive it in there, and then you're going to do everything you need to do just with the controls of, like I said, you're going to set that saddle. You want to get that bottom pin down in that saddle first. Then you go ahead and tip the backhoe back up into where the pins go, and then use all your hydraulic controls to move it around until those pins just slide in the holes. Once those pins are in, backhoe's on, ready to go.